you update us on the latest numbers that we have seen from the Crop Estimates Committee, suggesting that South African farmers are taking advantage of the deluge of rain that we've been seeing.
Yeah, I think, being a typical maize crop, you need to plan ahead, and there were farmers planting in October, November, December, and it takes some time for the crop estimates to come through with those estimates, their figures, their intentions to plant. So we don't have an idea of what the actual crop size will be, but we know how many hectares have been planted, and that is certainly up. If you look at the white maize side, the latest estimate shows an increase there of 10.93%, almost 11% additional hectares planted to white maize, and just under 4% to yellow maize. So certainly a lot more maize being planted for the coming season.
Now, Chris, why would that be the case given the fact that we've seen prices coming under pressure in recent weeks and months?
If you look at, it's always difficult to get into the mind of a producer, but if you were looking at prices, prior Christmas time, the grains market was trading around the 1,700 levels, 1,600 levels at one stage. So the market had peaked. I think it was an opportunity where farmers could see there was potential. We've also had a very good export season, so South Africa has managed to get rid of its surplus product. So yes, I think at that stage prices were looking reasonable, and farmers had an opportunity to hedge, to lock in some of their crop. Yeah. Obviously, there's very few farmers that will lock in the entire crop right at planting season, because no one knows if you're going to get good rains or if you're going to struggle with the crop through the growing season. So yes, certainly I think farmers had an opportunity to hedge. But unfortunately, coming back to the office around the 4th of Jan, we've seen prices plummeting. It's not really, some of it is naturally driven by what the figures coming out of the crop estimates, but also looking at international markets. There's been a lot of downward pressure on prices from international markets. Yeah.
Now, talking of international prices, I mean, if we look across further north in Africa, we are seeing potentially a drought in parts of Zimbabwe because there's simply been no rain. I guess most of the rain that's been falling here has not been falling in Zimbabwe. So potentially that's a market that's waiting to be filled in.
Yeah. I also just recently read a report about follow-up rains in Malawi being a bit scarce. So yeah, you never know further north of us how much demand there's going to be for product.
Should that be lighting a fire under prices?
I think it still needs some time to mature. Let's see how serious the drought is. And obviously, you also look at how much maize is being planted in Zimbabwe. So yeah, there will always be a need in that area for the short term. But, what's also impacting is this international downward pressure on prices and saying, fine, if there is a drought in Zimbabwe or Malawi, are they actually going to use South African maize, or if there's cheaper maize internationally, will they come from a different source, a different origin? And therefore, that does drive South African prices down.
So if I can ask you to put on your crystal ball, look at your crystal ball, when you look out for, say, to the July contract, do you see prices perhaps stabilizing or perhaps starting to increase?
I think where you look at the drop, and in percentage terms, white maize now is trading cheaper than yellow maize, where you think white maize is really human consumption. So
especially in Southern Africa.
Definitely in Southern Africa. So if you look at white maize, the drop has been, if you look in percentage, 23% down from those December highs. So we have dropped significantly over the last 4 or 5 weeks. I think there should certainly be some buying opportunities come into the market. At these levels.
Let's talk about potential political hot potato here. Wheat. The Committee on Crops lowered the estimate for wheat production. It's a slight decline to 1.95 million tons from a projected 1.98. This is the final product, by the way, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, is that a surprise? And secondly, what impact on prices?
If you look at the adjustment, it was fairly small. Yes, it's finalizing the number, so we know that the total wheat produced in South Africa was under the 2 million ton mark. We know we need 3 million tons, so we will be importing, which we do every other year. So yeah, not such a topical point. Really, the wheat market will be looking at international drivers for some price direction.
Right.
And then again is how much wheat will be planted internationally for the coming season. That will have a driver on impacts. If there's a lot more corn planted than wheat, so because we've only got so much land to plant, and if there's more going into corn than wheat, there will be less wheat produced. which if we can get rid of the wheat stock levels, you could see then upward trend on prices.
Because I'm looking at this and I'm looking at wheat prices that have been weak for quite a while now, and I'm thinking potentially from here, wheat prices can only go up.
Yeah, you know, when you think that the market can only go one direction, the market proves you wrong. But yeah, Godfrey, I tend to agree with you. At these lower levels, you know, typically for South African farmers, it's very difficult to make money at these levels. So they would want to see that upward move. But unfortunately, hamstrung by the international markets.